Need high-quality video to promote your event, business, or band? We can help.
We're Pixel Pond, a video production team based in the Pacific Northwest, providing high-quality content to clients across the U.S. and Canada.
Whether you want coverage of your live event to promote for next year, or need a camera and a camera operator for your next big project, we can accommodate projects of all sizes.
Your story is important. Visit pixelpondllc.com or send an email to info@pixelpondllc.com to get started today. We can't wait to work with you.
This time on Gamers Week podcast.
And the last one, The Never Ending Story. I've got a lot of nostalgia for this one. I loved this movie growing up.
Will it have a certain scene?
Yes. Come on.
No.
Come on, with the Treyu and the horse.
Why? Why would you do that?
We'll get to that in a second.
You have to have it.
We'll get to that
Pixelated cutscene. There you go.
All right. So I think this one needs to be a RPG. Right? It has all the elements of a good one anyways. Your horse dies early in the game, so you have something to be sad about.
This game already.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
What have you done?
I had a grooming accident this morning.
Donnie, you have no room to judge because we have seen the exact same grooming accident on you more than once. But by God, boys, learn to control your clippers.
The top, so it's like an adjustable one that you dial it in or whatever, right? And like the clip popped off, so I was like, all right, I'll just put it back on. So I slapped it on, not realizing that set it to 1, went across the bottom of my face, and I was like, oh fuck.
You didn't just want to leave a mustache?
I did at first, and I was like, no.
I would have liked to see that. To see how the mustache by itself was worse than just going completely babyface.
But trust me, it was horrendous. So this is what I look like when I'm 12.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, we've seen pictures that you showed us before of you with no facial hair and everything like that, but we're so used to this, and I've never seen you in person with no facial hair.
Thank you for making this so much more comfortable. I appreciate all of the laughter.
He's just happy that he's not alone anymore.
Yeah, I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing with you. Okay?
It's funny because I'm not laughing.
Woo! I will laugh at both of you. How's that? That'll make everything even.
I'll laugh at myself. I was so fucking pissed this morning. I was like, damn it.
At least it's going to be back in 3 weeks, right? It's not that big a deal.
No.
All right. Welcome to Gamers Week podcast. Like the name says, we analyze the best, worst, and weirdest headlines of the past week in the video game industry. This is episode 138. And for those doing the math at home, that gives us episode 69 times 2. And today is Wednesday, October 23rd, 2024. Thanks so much for tuning in, everyone. My name is Blue Williams, and I will be your host for this evening. But of course, I am not alone. As you can see, I do have my 2 fine co-hosts with me. My first co-host is an aficionado of toilet whiskey and roaming around the city of Rapture with only 1 bullet in his 6-shooter. Just don't ask him to connect your pipes under a time limit. Please, everyone, say hello to Ryan Payne, a.k.a. retrogamebrews.
I would provide context as to what you're talking about, but I'm not going to. I want people to be generally curious as to what you have to say. So
I think it's better.
Yeah, I agree. I think mystery is always the key to entertaining a media.
and my second co-host. We are joining him in mourning his Ghost of Tsushima save file, which recently perished in a tragic overwriting incident. In lieu of flowers, please send donations to the Sega is So Coming Back campaign fund. Everyone say hello to the one and only Donnie G.
Sega is So Coming Back tattoo fund.
Okay.
Now, some people get the no regrets. I'm going to get that right up here. Sega is so coming back.
I think they're the same thing. I don't. If it was that thing with like Pam and it says, "What is this?" and she goes, "They're the same picture." No regrets. And Sega's coming back. Same thing.
Cool.
Cool.
All right. Well, if we're not going to talk any more about Ryan's lack of beard, I guess we can go get the show started with our reviews, reactions, and requests. Gamer for Life WD says, honestly, I'm more annoyed by the removal of the affordable option of standard Game Pass for $10 with day ones than I am at Microsoft for taking away the $1 Game Pass deal. Forcing Game Pass Ultimate means I'm more likely to let the library build and do a binge for a couple of months, or just wait for sales and bypass Game Pass altogether.
So there's a $10 option that they took away as well?
That used to be the standard one, and they took that away. They do have like a standard tier now, but it doesn't have day one releases.
Oh, okay.
Well, again, not financially viable, so I guess whatever. Damned if you do, damned if you don't.
At Retroblast US says, all right, did I inspire some James Bond Jr. talk with my Twitter post? If so, I'm counting this as my third Gamers Week appearance. I don't think it's just a coincidence that anyone ever mentions James Bond Jr.
Like, who even really remembers James Bond Jr.?
I did not until that moment.
Yeah, it's a throwback for sure. It's a deep cut.
I remember the theme song more than the show.
Yeah, me too.
And at Retro Gaming Dev said, listening to the latest episode of Gamers Week this morning, perfect for the commute. Laughing about the N64 banter, but objectively, I do think Donnie G Retro goes a little harder on it than it deserves.
So hard. No, and let me be clear. I don't hate the N64 as much as Ryan does. I like the N64. I do. It's got some good games on it. While the entire library isn't like a home run, it definitely has some great games. I love the design. I hate the design for the controller, but it's definitely if I were to put up the N64 over the GameCube, I would pick the N64 night and day every time.
I don't even know you.
Well, at least he didn't throw you under the bus. Oh, yeah, I don't hate it as much as this guy, this asshole over here.
Right, so what we're learning is that Donnie, he won't stick to his convictions, is what we're saying.
Oh, I stick to my convictions pretty well, but I like whenever Ryan and I talk about the N64, I like to get involved there with him because I know he hates it. I know how much he hates it. So it's fun. It's fun to join in and bash on and be the bully to the N64.
All right, let's move on to our patron shoutouts.
We couldn't do what we do without the help of our gorgeous or generous patrons. Here are the... Never mind, that didn't work.
Don't go off book. Don't go off book.
Never go off book.
Stick to the script, motherfucker.
And go yourself, San Diego. Here are the generous folks supporting Gamers Week on Patreon. Bill Tucker, The Real Retro Game Brews, Fruitcakes Pickled Pepper, Ducks with Thick Thighs, absolutely the best podcast, Wizard of Zardoz, Flops and Dugnut, Blues Little Sis, Loud Moth, Retro Blast Pat, VNT Zillaguy, The Mad Milkman, Seven Castle Forest, Crunchy Kong, Sheriff Snacks, Frank Grande, Love Retro BTW, Steven Sand, Ramboski, Terry Kinnair, Agil 2020, Don't Make Me Pull This Car Over, Sir Coffee of House Blend, first of his name, Hybrid Divide, You Fall Before Me, David PGH, The Pixel Pond Family, including Shannon and Luke, Zach Huge Thanks, number one Blue Sick Boys fan, John Baran, Sony with the Smashing Pumpkins, Evo Lust, Rai's Secret Best Friend, Mega Retro Man, Gamatroid, Moradib, Michael Lakite, and Emo-esque. If you like what you hear today, and we really hope you do, please consider joining us on Patreon. Your support helps cover the cost of producing the show, as well as other cool stuff we'll be doing like prizes and giveaways. You'll also gain access to our bi-weekly patron-only bonus cast called Gamers Week Uncut, Patrons with Benefits. Visit patreon.com/gamersweek or follow the link in the show notes to learn
Puzzle Better says, so what you're saying is that bullies are always welcome at GWP.
What's the system that you love to hate?
I wouldn't say that I love to hate this N64. Let me put that out there. My only gripe with the N64 ever is when people call it the GOAT. That's like the gripe.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Anything else, cool, totally cool. I just don't think it happens to be the greatest of all time. I will say, like, things like the Virtual Boy are a little fun to kind of tease, right? I'm sure they're out there. I'm sure there are people who will die on the hill that the Virtual Boy is the greatest console of all time. But I think overall, we can all agree that it's pretty shit. Like, so
I wouldn't say it's pretty shit. It's okay. It's just like subpar.
The problem is not the games specifically, it's the interaction piece. It's how you interact with the media. You got to sit in, like, place it on a table, lean over it. And I'm old. I can't be sitting like that for more than 20 minutes, right? It has nothing to do with like the nausea thing that everybody complains about. That doesn't bother me. It's my back.
So what you're saying is you're just too old for the Virtual Boy. It's not the Virtual Boy's fault. You're just too old.
Correct. Thank you for...
You're welcome.
Helping me with that.
You're welcome. All right, let's move on to the headlines.
All right, so this headline segment is proudly sponsored by the Retro Game Club podcast. It's a fantastic family-friendly retro gaming podcast, and each episode, Rob and Hugh pick 2 games to play and discuss, as well as news, interviews, and other topics. Right now, they're playing through Stun Runner and Solstice. Visit them at retrogameclub.net or follow the link in the show notes. So
I don't know those games.
I know Solstice.
And I know Stun Runner, so that's interesting.
Oh, okay.
Excellent. Discuss.
Stun Runner was an arcade game, and if I remember right, it came out in like the late 80s. Because of the way it looks, it's super polygons, right? It's all polygonal, and it reminds me a little bit of like Tempest, where it utilizes the like loop system or what have you.
Yeah.
And so you're sitting on the thing that is the most rudimentary looking bicycle or motorcycle. It's just a thing where you just you straddle it more or less. And it comes with like the Star Wars controller from the Star Wars arcade game, right? And so you manipulate that to run through races. And the idea is it's kind of like F-Zero a little bit, where the idea is obviously to win. You're kind of navigating through different vehicles that are on the track and stuff. There's boosts as you go through, and the further you get into the game, they actually add more things to your vehicle. So there's like lasers, there's like a blaster as well that like stuns other things. So a lot of fun, I will say. But it is really, really hard, especially if you're utilizing that controller. It just doesn't seem to like be as intuitive as it should be. But
okay.
I haven't seen one in years, so I doubt that it's something that you could find fairly easily. But it's got to be on MAME somewhere, right?
Of course. And now that you say it, I mean, I had just had to Google search Stun Runner because I like the name doesn't make me. It doesn't ring nostalgia. Mm-hmm. But once I saw the video of it, like, oh my God, that's a blast from the past. Oh, yeah. I have not thought about this game in probably over 25 years. Mm-hmm. And it was an amazing arcade game. Solstice, however, it's like whenever I think of Solstice, I immediately think of Crystal Castles.
Yeah.
Because it's got that, I don't know how to call it. It's not, I guess it's an isometric view. Mm-hmm. And I don't even really remember the gist of the game. Like, is it an adventure game? I don't really remember it.
I don't either.
Yes, Simon asked here, Solstice is super old. It was on the NES. I don't know if it was like one of the original games on the NES.
Easy there. You don't need to be calling stuff on the NES super old.
It's 40.
Shut up.
39 years old. 39 years old.
Yeah.
Just think about what you're really saying.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right.
I was born in '85, so I am exactly as old as the Nintendo. So
yeah.
But I would agree, I'm super old.
You don't look it tonight, though.
Oh, shut up.
Webhead says Virtual Boy needs a head strap, and we'll call it the Virtual Old Man.
That's what I was just thinking before we actually moved on to the other topic, is if somebody were to take a Virtual Boy system and put a strap, like a Velcro strap or something like that, where you could wear it like the Meta Quest, That's the retro Meta Quest.
We got MetaQuest at home.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the week's headlines. First up, 2 years after unveiling Team Blue, a new AAA studio aimed at building the next big thing in gaming, Netflix has closed it down without the studio having ever released a game. This closure comes despite the company recruiting a strong team of notable veteran developers with experience on God of War, Halo, and more over the last couple of years. A new report from GameFile says Team Blue appeared to be pursuing some ambitious, multi-device, and big-budget stuff behind the scenes. A reason for the closure was not provided, but it does sound like Netflix's focus is shifting. In an October investors call, co-CEO Gregory Peters said Netflix is excited about games based on Netflix IPs, but their next big thing in gaming that was so hyped in 2022 went entirely unmentioned. So we have Stadia 2.0. Basically, right? Yeah. How YouTube Google tried to start their own AAA studio and closed it a few months later, and it never did anything, even though they poached a bunch of big name developers to put it together.
Hey, at least they never released anything bad.
Every cloud has a silver lining, apparently.
Right?
Does it? I feel like it would have been better if they released something terrible. At least they would have released something.
I don't know. Is it better to swing and miss? Or is it better to just give up completely without ever releasing anything?
I think it's better to go down swinging. Isn't that what sports teaches us?
Yeah. But if I'm in Game 7 of the Stanley Cup,
I knew more analogies for sports were coming, so I'm excited.
Sorry, I didn't mean to mention baseball.
And the puck is coming at me, and I go for a slap shot, a one-timer, and I miss, and it's game over. Is it better to not have taken the shot, or is it now I'm stuck in history as the person that swung and missed the thing, and I'm going to be made a joke of?
Satisfaction says, tell that to the Concord developer. Touche, my friend. Touche.
Yeah. Okay, I don't know. Maybe it's all in your perspective, but it's funny to me that, like we said, Google shut down their studio after a couple of months. Netflix is shutting down their studio, Team Blue, after 2 years. But we know that AAA games take 5 to 6 years to make. Mm-hmm. So I'm not sure what these companies' expectations are when they're setting up these studios and poaching these developers, and must be pitching something amazing to them to get them to leave their jobs and come work and make the next big thing in gaming, when clearly Netflix would rather just have mobile games and Squid Game.
Wouldn't they be better off doing what a lot of other like big name publishers did, where they shopped it out to small name developers to create the content for games that were based on IPs that they wanted, and then just published it under their name? Wouldn't that make more sense? They would have less of an investment from a money perspective, right? I mean, maybe they don't have as much control, but a lot of times they do. And you wouldn't have to create this like in-house all-in feeling and risk, like you said, 5 to 6 years of nothing in order to get a banger of a game. So I'm genuinely surprised that they don't take kind of the more hands-off approach. And yeah, pick Squid Game and let some other developer really create it. And you don't have to invest a whole lot of money, time, and effort. That to me is the better play. And you know what? Yeah, let's say you get a whole bunch of really good games that come out with Netflix IPs. Then is when you start your own studio. That's when you start bringing them all in-house, and they're familiar with Netflix IPs and how you work, and then everybody wins. But in the interim, that just doesn't make sense to me. It seems like such a huge risk with such a little payoff guaranteed.
So in essence, are you saying from Netflix perspective, allow some other studio to take their IP and turn it into?
Yeah, and then publish it under the Netflix name, right? So it comes out as this game is Netflix, yada, 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 right? Allow another studio, maybe even a small one, that you don't have to pay a whole lot. And it doesn't have to be a AAA game at first. It can be one of those fun little games that you see on like Amazon Luna and stuff like that, or the Amico. Sorry, I was kidding about that. But nonetheless, hand the reins off to somebody who knows what they're doing before it is that you invest everything. And Google doesn't ever learn that lesson, because they always want to do things in-house.
Because they're Google and they have all the money.
Exactly.
Right.
So, but Yeah, I don't get it.
The only thing I could figure is that a lot of Netflix's business problems come up because they don't own the content on their platform. So they're continually juggling licensing and contracts and deals. And so my only thought is that if they really, at least at the time, wanted to go all in on this next big thing in gaming, they wanted to be fully in control of it.
Which I get. And they did that with movies, right? So when they came out with movies and shows, they were Netflix only and Netflix produced, and they did really, really well with that. The interesting part about it, though, is a lot of it had to do with their success. Actually had to do with the awards ceremonies that happened. So Oscars, Golden Globes, all that kind of stuff. Apparently, if you are very generous to the voting crew of those places.
For your consideration.
Exactly. So apparently there was a lot of scandal behind that about Netflix going a little above and beyond when it comes to the gift packages that they provided for their movies and TV shows. And magically that year they won 11 Oscars and, a bunch of Emmys and shit. Unfortunately, I don't think Game of the Year does that for you.
We don't know. Simon Ashtier says, swing and miss is better. If there's one thing I learned from Twitch, it's possible for once hated games to gain appreciation over time.
That's a good call.
Yeah, he's not wrong. There's a lot of games that get drummed up, old school games and whatnot that people have fallen out of love for. It's a cult following, right? And you bring this on Twitch and okay, this game is either so bad it's fun to play or whatever, or this game has never really been appreciated by the collective masses, so I'm just going to play it, and maybe people will stop in and garner the respect that it deserves. So,
Bubsy, I'm looking at you. Bubsy's got a cult following on Twitch. Let's be honest. Warranted.
All right. Yeah, warranted or not. Next up, in a shocking turn of events that absolutely no one saw coming, information on Nintendo's upcoming Switch Online Playtest Program has leaked online. Images from documentation sent to program participants have been shared on social media that allude to an almost MMO-sounding game, which features blocky Minecraft-like worlds. Players were reportedly told they will need to work together to fully develop a massive, expansive planet by utilizing creativity and farmed resources, with new lands, enemies, and resources appearing while players progress. The images have since been removed from the internet due to a copyright strike by Nintendo. The playtest is due to officially launch on October 24th and run until November 6th.
So they couldn't even wait until the thing actually launched.
I guess they didn't want to participate that bad. They just wanted to run and go first. I would never do that. I would never cross Nintendo like that.
Exactly. Why would you want to?
Even if they didn't sue you, I mean, who knows what is in the fine print of the terms of service? Could they lock your Switch? Could they deny you access to your games? I don't even know how that works, but I'm not taking that chance.
Miyamoto shows up at your hospital the day your first child is born. He's like, please. You're like, what? He's like, you signed a contract. Please. What do you want? Your child. That you signed the contract. Hand him over. And you're like, oh my God. I would never cross Nintendo. Ever. Whatsoever.
It's like the South Park human Sentai pad, but it's going to be the human Sentai Switch. Right?
Satisfaction says, oh, damn, you guys are talking about the leaks. Nintendo is gonna sue.
I mean, somebody else is reporting on it, so it's ipso facto.
Yeah, it's like, we're at least 3 steps down. We're not really doing it. It's hearsay at this point.
Yeah, when they get down to us, they're too tired. They don't care about litigation anymore. Like, man.
Right.
Yeah. Let's just say nobody listened. Yeah. Nobody listened to Games Week podcast, and we're done with it.
But I'm definitely not crossing Nintendo just to get a little bit of internet cloud.
Right.
I mean, that is absolutely not worth it to me.
Never eat the cuttlefish if that happens, D. Well played, sir. Well played.
Wise words. You fall before me.
So we talked about this and what it could mean, I think last episode or 2 episodes ago when they announced the playtest program. And to hear that it's an MMO where you have to work together? No, I don't think I will.
I mean, I'm sure Nintendo has had this in development for several years already. They're the kind of company that waits until something is 99% ready before they let anybody see it or hear about it. So I'm sure they've been working on this a long time, but it does kind of remind me about a little bit about how Helldivers 2, people have to work together, not necessarily like you have to play as a co-op if you don't want to, but you work together to clear the planets, kind of working to get the universe as a whole under control. And I wonder if maybe that's the kind of approach, because people seem to like that versus like we actually have to play this giant co-op game.
I wonder if this is Nintendo trying to usurp Minecraft, right? At least from my experience, unless it's like Oreos, which were like the second to come out versus Hydrox, the cookies. Usually the second one that comes out just doesn't do as well, right?
Minecraft is a big target, though.
Is Minecraft still at the height of its like a popularity? I mean, are we running into the same thing as Concord, where we're bringing in genres that nobody really is actively seeking out right now, just to, I don't know, just to bring in something that was once popular, so that maybe they can have some clout? I don't know. But if anybody does crappy graphics and good gameplay, well, it's Nintendo.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like exactly the kind of thing that would be great on the Switch, depending. And let's be honest, this description doesn't sound great, but if the gameplay is super fun and the concept is super fun, we'll all be eating our words in a couple of months when this releases.
100%.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Minecraft is its own, it is the genre. It's not part of a genre, it is the genre. And anybody who thinks that they could usurp Minecraft, even Nintendo, I think, should know its limits from that regards.
Maybe this is the Sega Super game.
No. Please don't.
Like they just did like a little, like bait and switch, right? That you thought it was going to be on a Sega thing or a console, but really it's going to be on Nintendo.
Fooled you. Stick in the book.
All right, next up, according to a new report from Bloomberg, Bandai Namco, which publishes Elden Ring, Tekken 8, and most recently the 3 million unit selling Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, is cutting its workforce after canceling several games due to lackluster demand. The report also alleges that Bandai Namco is sending workers to expulsion rooms where they're given nothing to do. The company is said to have moved about 200 of its roughly 1,300 employees to expulsion rooms, and nearly 100 have resigned, with more expected to leave in the coming months. Japan has strict labor protection laws that make it harder to cut staff than in other countries. Expulsion rooms are therefore sometimes used by companies to drive staff to become so disheartened that they resign voluntarily and thus are ineligible for the severance they would normally receive had they been made redundant.
That is my dream job.
I was going to say, like, as bad as I feel for these employees, if we're going to play a game of chicken about who's going to give up first, I mean, I'm going to bring my pillow to work. I'm going to bring my Switch.
No, Robo. How do we know that you're allowed to bring that stuff in there?
What are they going to do? Fire you? That's the whole point of this room, is to avoid firing you.
Okay, so if the expulsion room it's nothing, like let's just say you go through security and they're like, sorry, you can't bring that in here. You can't bring that in here. You can't bring that in there. So you go into work and you have to sit in this room for 8 hours with nothing.
I could do it.
You could do that if you try to go to sleep.
If I get paid for it, hell yeah.
What are you gonna pull a David Putty and just sit there like look at the clock for like 8 hours? Oh, time's up. Yep, time to go home.
I mean, there are worse jobs. There are worse jobs, that's for sure. I mean, think how good your meditation would get. That novel you've been meaning to write, it's all up here now.
Boom.
The symphony you wanted to write. You have time for all of that with that job.
Are you in that room with other people, or are you in that room by yourself?
I would bet it's just a big expulsion room with all the people, so that you can see as your comrades drop like flies.
Ooh, even more devious. I'm surprised that Japan, having rules about labor protection, doesn't see this as a violation of your rights as human beings. Of course. I mean, this is essentially 8 hours of your day of solitary confinement, more or less, right? Which, to your point, Donnie, I think can have an impact on your mind and your mental state and all these things, right?
As we said, depending on how strict it is. One Up John says only the Virtual Boy is allowed.
Boom. Jack Brothers, Mario Clash, Red Alert. Yeah, I get all the Mario Tennis. Yeah, bring them all. Bring them all.
Somebody brings Jack Brothers into the. That thing's going home with me, man.
And Webhead says, I could do it. Many days in the Army were like that.
There you go.
You're not wrong. I've had similar experiences with the Army and everything, but I'd say time kind of passes a little bit quicker now as an adult than it did as a 19-year-old kid in the military. So like I could just space out and daydream, and the next thing you know, 4 hours has gone by, and it's like, oh, whoa, time for lunch. All right. And then come back and it's like,
that erotica fan fiction you've been meaning to write?
Right. Or you could use that as a test area for your stand-up comedy with all the people that are lumped in this expulsion room. And yeah, you just sit there and slay and refine your craft. And then like, all right, now I can quit and go on the comedy circuit and make millions of dollars.
You could do a lot of other things to entertain yourself, like eat a lot of really gassy foods and see how many people you can get to quit because of you.
And Simon Asher says, if we're watching our colleagues drop like flies, well, now it's a game. So $20 that Jimmy cracks first.
I once cleared out a trailer-sized building with my gas in the military. We were down at Fort Leonard Wood to qualify, and I had some of the MREs, and it tore up my stomach, and I dropped some hellacious bombs in there, and everybody just left. They couldn't stand it. So I would win this challenge.
Please tell me you had a nickname in the Army that had to do with your hellacious gas.
I don't think I did.
Damn it. That is a missed opportunity.
4 pounds of egg salad before we're going in.
That's what the G stands for in Donnie J.
Donnie Gastrointestinal Retro.
Yep.
I know that we're kind of making fun of this and making light of this, but at the end of the day, this is pretty messed up. Let's be honest. And if you run a company and this is your way to skirt around the law so you don't have to pay your employees what they deserve, you're a company at the end of the day. So, Bandai Namco has been around for a very long time, both Bandai and Namco separately and then together. And I'm very disappointed. I got to be honest with them. I think that they can do better. And if things aren't going so well, it's not the fault of the people that you're putting in these expulsion rooms. It's your fault. So you deserve to pay them.
Right. It should be 100%. The CEOs who get locked up with Donnie after the 4 pound of egg salad.
Man, wouldn't that be a motivation to do really well, though, in business? Be like, well, if you don't.
Right. If we don't hit the numbers this quarter. Yep.
Camera pans over. I'm guzzling an IPA and just looking at him like.
Put it in like a test tube and be like, this is just a taste.
Okay. Fine, I'll increase profits. I'll do it.
I mean, that's true. If you're doing like mid-quarter check-ins, just send little vials of it to everybody as a warning.
Yeah. It's like, okay. All right. I'll stop watching Twitch on company time.
All right, next up, Sega is set to follow Nintendo, Capcom, and Square Enix in opening its own official store in Tokyo. Speaking at Gamescom Asia, Sega's transmedia boss, Justin Scarponi, said the store will open next summer in Shibuya's Parco department complex, the same building which already houses Nintendo Tokyo, the official Capcom store, and a Pokémon Center. Scarponi said the decision to launch a physical Sega outlet was motivated by the desire to put the Sega brand in front of more customers, particularly following the sale of its Japanese arcade business. Sega is a consumer brand that is surprisingly not in front of consumers enough, explained Scarponi. Sonic is, but Sega isn't. Sega already has a surprising amount of fandom as a brand, and we need to look after those fans and offer new experiences to them while putting the stamp of Sega on it more proudly.
Do you know why Sega is not in front of its consumers?
Because they don't know what they're doing.
Exactly, because of their fucking business practices are complete shit. So tidy up your house and now that you're putting your brand out in front of other people that says, hey, we're more than Sonic, what's that going to do? It's going to drum up business.
So you're telling me that releasing a bunch of Game Gear minis
only in Japan
was a poor business decision? How dare you, sir? How dare you?
What do I know of business, right?
So I agree. I think Sega has definitely stepped out of the game for a while. They've become irrelevant, and it's unfortunate. Thankfully, Sonic still like keeps them off the cliff. So if we're talking about like a supermassive black hole, it's pulling it away from the event horizon of continued irrelevancy. But I think this is actually a good move. I think putting a Sega store in Tokyo, at least for the Japanese market, will be a great way to bring back Sega in the minds of younger folks too. I mean, they see, I'm sure they're going to oversell the whole Sonic thing right from the get-go. So people are going to go, oh, Sonic, I'll go in there. And then they get exposed to a lot more Sega IPs and Sega stuff. And then their parents go, yeah, I used to have a Mega Drive. So blah, 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 blah.
Mega what?
Yeah. What now?
Exactly. So hopefully what happens with this is all of a sudden you're seeing more of these pop up that aren't just in Tokyo, right? So there's a Nintendo store. There's going to be a Nintendo store. There's one in New York City now. Hopefully there'll be a Sega store in New York City as things kind of progress. So my hope is that this continues because there are still a lot of people who love Sega. They just haven't thought about it in years. I said people and you don't qualify. Anyway.
Oh. Aww.
You couldn't see this because I was flipping you off outside there.
Oh, we saw it. Don't worry.
Yep, okay. We saw it.
Anyways, I think that Sonic was the ones holding them off the event horizon just barely. And it wasn't until the success of the Sonic movie that they realized maybe our name and our IP are actually worth quite a bit more. And I think that was the thing that finally convinced them that to actually put a little bit of effort into maintaining their brand. When before it was just like, whatever crappy Sonic game, we'll call it good. We're just still butthurt that we lost to Nintendo.
And then there's still Sega Sammy, so they're making pachinko machines, right? Still. Because I know that they sold off their arcade. I don't know if that meant that they sold the pachinko machines as well. So if that's your only brand, though, is pachinko machines, extremely niche, right? Very popular in Japan, but anybody outside there goes, what's that?
I think a lot of people here in the States don't have the nostalgia for Sega that we do. The younger crowd, you ask them like, hey, what do you think of Sega? What's Sega?
Well, it's kind of like Atari, right? Where they've heard of it. They just don't have as much exposure to it. So yeah, they might buy a Sega t-shirt because it's funny to them, right? Like I don't know how many kids I saw walking around the mall recently that had an Atari t-shirt on. And
you don't even know what that is.
Yeah. Well, it's like, well, what's your favorite Atari game? I don't know. I just thought the t-shirt was funny. And I get that. I really do. Because I it's fun, it's fashion, it's nostalgia. But exposing, I think, people more to the Sega brand can't hurt in the long run.
So when are you buying your ticket, Donnie?
Is this, well, I've always wanted to visit Tokyo. I'm not going to buy a ticket for something. I don't know when the date that is that's going to open up. So I'm just going to sit there and wait in Japan.
Yes.
Wait months. Yes. Which I don't mind. I don't hate the idea.
It's not a terrible idea at all. Yeah. Go to Super Potato every day.
Since I work from home, it's not a bad idea.
All right, and last up, a children's hospital in Scotland now has a gamer in residence in what's said to be a first in the UK and Ireland. Stephen Mayer, the first person to take on the full-time role, will play games with kids at the Royal Hospital for Children in Glasgow. As with other gaming-related charitable efforts at children's hospitals, the aim is to help patients relax and minimize feelings of boredom and isolation while offering them a sense of escapism. Mayer is also organizing gaming events at the facility, fundraising for new gaming equipment, and managing gaming volunteers for the Glasgow Children's Hospital charity. The charity established the gamer in residence position with the help of partners Devolver Digital and Neon Hive after raising over £100,000 last year.
One Up John, I think, made an excellent point to start here. They should do that at adult hospitals too.
Yeah.
You know what would be great is you've got this kid that's supposed to be the resident gamer in resident, and you whoop his ass in something. It's like, oh, Steve, what's up?
Well, I mean, if you're playing with sick kids all day, don't you think you should let the sick kids win?
No.
No, no mercy. I don't care what your diagnosis is. No mercy.
You don't let them win, because then that makes them feel like you're feeling sorry for them.
That's a good point.
It depends on how you do it.
No, if we're playing Street Fighter, I'm kicking your ass and leaving you a crumpled mess on the floor. That's just, I don't care what you have. That's just how it is.
So maybe you target games that are strictly co-op.
Simon Astor says, "In your face, ha! Take that."
Yeah. I would want Tim Kitzrow there with me while I'm playing NBA Jam, and like I'm just destroying this kid 100 to like maybe 6. And Tim Kitzrow, like every single bucket, it's raining fire, and he's right there looking at the kid in the face, like, you can't buy a bucket. And the next thing you know, like, yeah, then the kid just. Is that bad?
That's a little morbid.
And yes, Dee, that was a Chappelle Show skit. I remember that one.
I will say, though, this is an awesome job. I don't know why this hasn't been more of a thing, because I think there's been plenty of studies. We've talked about on the show, right, about how video games help with folks young and old. They're going either through trauma, that they're experiencing mental things that can help them with their mental health, as well as physical mobility, right? The Wii has been hugely popular for folks who are in older homes, if you will. So this makes sense. And honestly, getting paid to do that every day, I think would be super fun. The only thing I will say, though, is as somebody who knows nurses and doctors and things like that, it's got to be tough, though. You're playing video games with a kid and things don't end up going well. It's got to be pretty tough on you. So I'd imagine you have to be somebody who is, I guess, maybe able to disconnect, or I don't know. I just think that would be rough. But nonetheless, yeah, if they have that job here, I'm going to be the first to apply, is what I'll say.
Same here.
Yeah, 100%.
I would leave my current job to go play video games all day with kids, adults, or whatever. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I'm signing up.
Even though you'd get in there and the kids would be like, I want to play Fortnite. Fortnite is trash.
I'll still dunk on them plebes.
We're going to teach you about Rad Racer.
It's like
this crap.
Mortal Kombat 2 on the Sega Genesis is the best game ever. It's a very good game, but I think Donkey Kong Donkey Kong sucks.
Here, try this Virtual Boy.
Redox PDX says there have been plenty of studies with pain distraction, dexterity, etc. Some newer ones now with ADHD and autism too, about focus and mental health regulation benefits. Absolutely. Maybe this will become a thing, like just a gaming buddy as a career.
You don't even have to go to school for it. Do you know how to play video games? Are you good at video games? Yes. Show us your proof. Okay, here you go. Bam, you're hired.
Right. Battletoads.
I think the video games, whether you're good at them or not, would be irrelevant. It's more like, can you relate to this person who needs the companionship?
Kind of, but then I think you get into a competition where the hospitals like have like the people like, this is my gamer. This gamer represents this hospital, and this is what he or she has done. This is what like the achievements that we're better on the national stage. This guy can kick your ass. She can kick your butt. That's what it's going to end up turning into.
I like this esports thing, right? It's like competition of hospitals, right? I like this.
Hospital esports.
Right?
Right. Redox says hospital leaderboards.
Damn right.
All right, let's move on to our top 3 new releases.
Sonic X Shadow Generations. PS5, Xbox Series X and S, PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC. Shadow the Hedgehog is back with classic and modern Sonic in Sonic X Shadow Generations, an all-new collection featuring 2 unique experiences. Play as Shadow in a brand new story campaign featuring never-before-seen abilities that prove why he's known as the ultimate life form. Speed through iconic stages from Shadow's history, discover hidden secrets in an expansive hub world, and unlock new powers to take on Black Doom and save the world. Fear the Spotlight. PS5, Xbox Series XS, PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC. From Blumhouse Games, Fear the Spotlight is an atmospheric third-person horror adventure with a disturbing mystery to unravel. Sneak into school after hours with Vivian and Amy, and survive a seance gone wrong, solve tactile puzzles, and whatever you do, stay out of the spotlight. Call of Duty Black Ops 6, PS5, Xbox Series XS, PS4, Xbox One, and PC. Developed by Treyarch and Raven, Black Ops 6 is a spy action thriller set in the early 90s. With a mind-bending narrative and unbound by the rules of engagement, this is signature Black Ops across a cinematic single-player campaign, a best-in-class multiplayer experience, and with the epic return of round-based zombies. Based on these fabulous descriptions this week, Blue, what are you picking?
Well, of course, you guys know I'm so into Black Ops 6. However, I will say that we already bought it. We bought it ages ago so that Mr. Blue could play the beta stuff. He could have the whole early access thing. He's got the season passes. He's got all the stuff. So we have bought this. It is already here. Sonic X Shadow Generations, again, not the biggest Sonic fan, but this is getting pretty darn good reviews. And so I would be open to such a thing were it ever on a can't turn down sale. But the one that I'm looking at this week is Fear the Spotlight. This was one of those ones that was announced in the Blumhouse sizzle reel this summer, like at Gamescom or something. I don't remember when they had all their big announcements, but it's kind of that PS1 style horror game, and it looks really cool. It looks really creepy. Blumhouse has great stuff for the most part, so I am 100% in for Fear the Spotlight.
Nice.
Gotcha. Ryan, what about you? What are you picking this week?
I love Call of Duty. It's my favorite genre game. When I get a chance to play with Donnie and friends, I just have such an excellent time. I don't get yelled at all. I don't get made feel bad that I'm just new to this game and that I don't have quite the skills as everyone else. So this is a day one purchase for me. And what? Today is opposite day. So everything I just said is the exact opposite of how I feel.
That might have happened a long time ago, man. Come on.
Right. If it's opposite day, does that explain your lack of beard?
Oh, yes. There you go.
Just trying to help you out, bud.
Well played. Well played.
Lack of beard, but a thick, full... No, never mind.
That's not there either. Anyway. So the next one that I'm looking at is Fear of Spotlight. It looks creepy, don't get me wrong. So it's definitely in that spoopy season. But visually, this looks like an N64 game.
That's what I said. PS1, N64 style.
Right. And so I think we can all agree that was the worst graphically games have ever looked. Hands down. It's just that transition from Super Nintendo to what eventually became the GameCube, PS2, Xbox, right? And Sega Dreamcast. But that middle one with the Saturn, the N64, and the PlayStation 1 was just atrocious and ugly. And we don't need to bring that back. That's all I'm saying. Okay. Give me an example of one that's worse.
No, I don't disagree with you, but I will say that at the PlayStation had some bangers, had some amazing bangers. And at the end of its life, I think they started to refine some things.
Right. And as you got closer to the next generation, 100%.
Of course.
But when you think about that era of games, right, you think of ugly polygons, terribly shaded.
Yes.
Just
100%.
Blocky hell. And that's what this game looks like. I mean, you know what's interesting is that I think the character looks more blocky than the environment. So they purposely made it look like a character from that generation. That being said, it looks creepy. It looks fun. I'm having a hard time overcoming the graphics. That's where I'm at. But as far as Sonic X Shadow Generations, looks good. Looks pretty well put together. Story elements to it seem kind of fun. And it's a mixture between both 3D Sonic and 2D Sonic, which I love that. I love that mixture. I think that provides some nice variety as you play. So all in for that. I will say at the end of the day, though, I'm still not a huge fan of Sonic gameplay. I've never gotten into it. But if I had to pick one out of the three that we're looking here, I think Sonic X Shadow Generations is probably be the one that I would go with. Just seems like the lesser of three evils.
Right.
What about you, Donnie?
So I have no intention of playing Black Ops 6. I think there's only one Black Ops game that I really even invested time in. And that's whenever Call of Duty Blackout came out, which was the precursor to Warzone.
Right.
And
which I liked better to watch when you guys played that.
Yeah, Blackout was fun. Warzone, it's getting a little bit tiresome. I think the last thing that I'm going to enjoy playing is the trip back to Verdansk, and then after that, I'm done. I've almost like kind of uninstalled it today when I was looking at it, and I have no intention of playing Black Ops 6, which leaves us with Sonic X Shadow Generations and Fear the Spotlight. Ryan, I have the same sentiment as you whenever I looked at this game. I was like, oh, why are we like Blumhouse and polygons? That doesn't fit.
Right.
But Clock Tower was scary.
Yeah.
He was a little scary. I don't know if they can recreate the same thing with this kind of game without the graphics being that of something like Sonic X Shadow Generations. I'm going to give this one a try, but I'm not convinced I'm going to shit my pants while playing it. Sonic X Shadow Generations looks great, looks amazing. It looks what I can expect any type of true Sonic game to be. A mix of 3D and 2D platforming, what have you. So right now, I think it's a toss-up between Fear the Spotlight and Sonic X Shadow Generations for what I'm actually going to pick up and put time into.
You Fell Before Me says, new idea, Warzone duo stream with Ronnie Diane.
Ronnie and Diane? Ronnie and Diane.
So one time, Donnie called me Ruan and Blue Blur, and we've been using those names for forever. But I think we need to start doing Ronnie and Diane.
Damn it.
Can we get that slowed up? Like,
No, I'm not doing that anymore. Warzone duo stream with Ryan and Donnie, or trios with Mr. Blue. I'd watch it. Please, guys, do it for the lulz.
We don't stream that game anymore. I used to stream it. It was just a lot of angry yelling and stuff like not good.
General sweatiness.
Pretty much.
All right, so before we move on, let's take a quick with Ronnie and Diane. Let's take a quick break to talk about our sponsor. This segment is proudly sponsored by A Gamer Looks at 40 podcast. The show explores the history of video games through the stories and experiences of people who lived it. This week's question is, what Halloween candy would you love to see in your trick-or-treat bag, and which one would prompt a swift egging next year? Let Bill know your answer by sending him a tweet at A Gamer Looks at 40 on Twitter.
Webhead says, so shipping the Ronnie. I have a new favorite ship now. And you guys get no say in it.
So to Halloween candy. All right. So there were certain people in my neighborhood that used to give you these cards, right, that would say Happy Halloween in it. And somebody would just put like a penny in it. And
were they 97 years old?
No, I have no idea. I don't remember like specifically who I got it from, but I remember thinking like, this is so cheap. Like, 200 kids are going to show up to your house. You're like, let me spend $2 and then another $5 on the cards. Look at me. I'm being economical and frugal, and the kids are getting money. I hated that crap. I want a sugar high, damn it.
Right.
And I know that probably when you grew up, a penny would have bought you a lot of candy. Not anymore.
Penny candy, yeah, absolutely.
Yep. So yeah, that one was a disappointment to say the least. My favorite is one that I've never bought a full bar of. Just eat the candy during Halloween, and that was Mr. Goodbar. I don't know why I liked Mr. Goodbar.
Mr. Goodbar is really good.
That's an old man candy bar.
Right,
Let's
and
be
I'm
honest.
an old man.
Shut up! It is not an old man candy bar.
Chat,
I've never bought a
Mr.
full...
Goodbar an old man candy bar?
No.
Your voice lacks conviction.
It's got clusters. It's chocolate. Crunchy.
It has a nice crunch to it.
Yeah.
I think it's better than Nestle Crunch.
Because Nestle Crunch also sucks.
Yeah, Nestle Crunch sucks. That's Rice Krispies.
Yeah.
Mr. Goodbar is something completely different. I am particularly fond of Heath or Score.
Heath.
Black licorice, I cannot stand. I hate it. It sucks. That's about really the only candy that I'd say. And candy corn. That too.
I love candy corn.
See, obviously, you know my history with trick-or-treating, but I know
so much of it.
I did so much of it, but I know that there were houses that would try to give away like apples or toothbrushes with little toothpaste. Like nobody wants that. I also know that some houses would give away little cards with Bible verses. I'm sure those houses were very, very popular. But the shiznit for me would have been Twix and Reese's Cups.
Yeah.
And they still
Reese's
are
Cup.
to this day. Oh, and Kit Kat.
You know, Reese's Cups, they were so easy to find too when you dumped out your candy that you could like separate them really quick. Yeah. Right. And because they were, you know, the only one that was a square, essentially, they had a little squish to it. Nice. So Frank said the Bible verses tasted terrible.
Did you guys ever get the popcorn balls?
Yes. Oh my God. I hated those. So gross.
Yeah, see, if you went to church for like harvest night instead, popcorn balls were all over the place.
Oh, I love it.
I'm glad my misery is so wonderful for you guys.
We're laughing with you, Blue, not at you.
I think that we should go
I don't think that's
visit
true
Blue
at all.
and go trick-or-treating.
You know, you guys know how that went last time.
No. If you're really old, all you can say is, "Oh, my kid's sick. I'm going trick or treating for him." Like, oh, okay.
No. We should have grown up trick or treating. That should be a thing.
Right, where they give you shots and beer.
Right, shots and beer, little liquor bottles, or like here's an
Arby's coupon or something like that.
Porn DVD or something. Like I don't know. I think that's an awesome idea. Yeah.
The one thing I saw a meme recently that said they're not putting drugs in the kids' candies. Drugs are expensive, so I think you go broke giving out gummies. Thank you for coming, students. Please take your seats. Welcome to Professor Rybread's Nostalgic Gaming 101. And this time of year, I personally spent a lot of time watching movies. The air is cold, you know, there's not much going on outside, and therefore there is no excuse not to turn on a flick I've seen 100 times before and relive the magic. And as you probably know, video games and movies have had a troublesome past, and some of the worst games on the Nintendo Entertainment System were adaptations of movie properties. Well, tonight, I want to talk about which 80s movies I think deserved an NES adaptation. And while I'm doing that, if you're live with us on Twitch, go ahead and type in the chat. What do you think are your NES game or movies that should have been NES games that were never made?
Puzzle Better knows my pain. Sorry to interrupt. Harvest Night pain. Who needs candy when you have bobbing for apples, when you could only dress up like a cowboy?
I'm going to need further explanation next time we do an uncut on what Harvest is like. Now, I am sure that you guys are aware of LGN and the slew of subpar or downright awful movie adaptations for the NES, from Nightmare to Elm Street to Beetlejuice. They butchered these properties. And what you got was nothing more than a game that barely resembled the property it was supposed to represent. So my promise to you tonight is there will not be bad guys that don't appear in the films. So no unnecessary spiders or bats to play filler for a lack of baddies. Also, these games will follow most of the movie plot that I'm suggesting. And this won't just be a platformer we slap some sprites over and call it a movie adaptation. Lastly, I won't invent gameplay mechanics just to make a movie worthy of a game. If it won't fit in, I'm not including it. I'm talking to you, Bill and Ted. So without further ado, let's start with our first game. And the first game is Escape from New York. So why a Snake Plissken game was never made is a complete mystery to me. But with all of the other run and gun games out there, it's a tragedy that Snake did not get his time on the NES. So Snake game would be an action adventure game with a mix of stealth, combat, and exploration items. Given the gritty kind of dystopian tone of the film and taking inspiration from classic NES games like Metal Gear, Ninja Gaiden, and Metroid for gameplay mechanics. So the plot would follow the movie pretty closely. A hardened ex-soldier turned criminal who is sent into Manhattan, now a maximum security prison, to rescue the president of the United States, whose plane crashed inside the city. Snake must locate the president, retrieve a vital cassette tape, and escape the city before time runs out, or else a lethal explosive device implanted in his neck will kill him. So the gameplay mechanics would include a few key elements. Number one, a timer. In the movie, Snake has 24 hours to get the president back, or an explosive detonates his head. The game would have the same. Now, would it run off of the exact amount of time? Obviously not. But having a timer, I think, would help heighten some of the excitement. 2, non-linear exploration. So similar to Metroid, you have to find your way around to key locations in the city, including the theater, Brain's hideout, as well as Duke's lair. And 3rd, stealth sections in the game, not the whole thing, but stealth sections in the game. Similar to Metal Gear, you can alert guards or other baddies if you're too reckless. Sneak up, take them down. So final level, though, I think would include a car chase against the Duke on the bridge and a final fight with him as time appears to expire. With the mixture of combat, stealth, exploration, and gritty graphics set, I believe this game would be an absolute winner.
And Adrian Barbeau's assets pixelated?
100%.
Yes.
100%. That's why I keep watching that movie.
See, Agent Nil says, I would have loved a Critters game.
Absolutely, 100%.
And Webhead wants to know whether there was a Tremors game.
I don't think there was a Tremors game, which, again, would be, I think, a pretty fun... I don't know how you would necessarily do it. Do it. I mean, because essentially it's like the floor is lava, more or less. I don't know how much gameplay you could get out of that one, but yeah.
If you actually, Tremors was a 1990 movie, wasn't an 80s one.
It's a good point as well, right? But if you want to do 80s movies, then Footloose, if you want to bring in a Kevin Bacon one.
I got Footloose.
All right, so the next one I would include is Little Monsters. I don't know if everyone is really familiar with this one, but I liked this movie as a kid. I used to watch it all the time. And that's what I used to think Howie Mandel was funny. So with Little Monsters, you would play as Brian Stevenson and Maurice, switching between them in different levels. So Brian would represent the human world. Maurice would guide you through the monster world. And the goal essentially would be that Brian's brother, Eric, is captured by the leader of the monsters, Boy, which I thought was a shitty one, but whatever. And you must venture deep into the monster world to rescue him. Story unfolds as you travel through various levels, face off against different monsters, solve puzzles to progress. So I think one of the coolest aspects of this game would be kind of a night and day world mechanic in which Brian needs to escape the monster world before each day arrives. So if you think about it, like the beds in the game would be portals to the human world, and as long as you could find a bed in time, you could escape. And while in the human world, you would gather materials to use on your quest and find your brother and avoid like suspicious adults, right?
I think it's pretty sadistic that you keep designing timers into games.
Well, this one isn't, I wouldn't say a timer. What this is you'll see like the lights start to come in, right? And so you'll know that you only got a few clicks in order to get there. So it wouldn't specifically be like an alarm clock. I think it's...
And do you play the Sonic underwater music too while you're at it?
Would this game be sponsored by Sealy, Serta, or Tempur-Pedic?
Back then I was going to say Tempur-Pedic, but I don't think Tempur-Pedic was around back then. So.
I don't think so either.
We're going to go with Stearns and Foster.
The best.
So I think another gameplay element that I think would be cool is that you can freely switch between Maurice and Brian in the monster world. Brian would be equipped with the flashlight, and Maurice would have a lot of cool monster powers. And the goal would be to collect all the necessary equipment to build that like super light to defeat Boy and win your brother back. So I think it would be fun. I don't know if it would be like an absolute banger, but I think I would have a lot of nostalgia with it being a Little Monsters game. And I'm sure there are plenty of like really awful pixelated like cutscenes you could create with that, with Howie Mandel's character. So
yeah.
It would have to be better than the movie itself.
You shut your mouth.
No, I don't think I will.
That movie is amazing.
And the last one
is amazing.
The Never Ending Story. I've got a lot of nostalgia for this one. I loved this movie growing up.
Will it have a certain scene?
Yes. Come on.
No.
Come on, with the Atreyu and the horse.
Why? Why would you do that?
We'll get to that in a second.
You have to have it.
We'll get to that
Pixelated cutscene. There you go.
All right. So I think this one needs to be a RPG. Right. It has all the elements of a good one anyways. A main protagonist who traverses an entire world after accepting a quest. He's got a flying mount that he could use to explore the overworld. And someone needs saving. The three things that I think you can use to make a good RPG. Now you play as Atreyu and you traverse the world of Fantasia, leveling up with enemy encounters, collecting items and weapons, and conducting side quests as you search for the nothing. Your horse dies early in the game, so you have something to be sad about.
This game already.
And the final boss, of course, will of course be the nothing. And once you cause enough damage on the nothing, that will prompt Bastion to call out the name of the childlike empress. So you could gain companions along the way, like the scientist, Rockbiter, or Teeny Weeny, which I had to look that up, and that's the speed snail guy. His name is Teeny Weeny.
Yeah.
How unfortunate.
And the big icon, the big statues with the bazooms and the lasers and all that stuff.
They got the bazooms and the lasers and the,
the smoke coming out of a jumblies.
So one of the things, though, why this movie was never made into an NES game, but like Willow was, is completely beyond me. So to kind of wrap things up, these are my three that I thought would be just a conversation starter. So if it's something that you're interested in, I think that there are plenty of other games out there, including like 80s movies like Bloodsport, Over the Top. Go ahead.
No, I was recreating the scene from Bloodsport where he's got the thing in his eyes. He's like, look at his like, oh, okay. Yeah. Got it. All right. So I hope you enjoyed my top three movies that never got an NES game but should have. And let me know what movies you think you'd like to see become NES games. So thank you for attending today's Gaming History or Gaming Nostalgia 101. Just a reminder, if you have any ideas for a story or topic you'd like to hear, send us a message at gamersweekpodcast@gmail.com and we might feature your suggestion. Blue, do you have any movies that you'd like to see as video games from the 80s?
Little Monsters was my idea.
It was.
But you hate the movie.
I hate the movie. So it should be a game because it would be a fun concept for a game when the movie is
You make no sense.
I think I make plenty of sense.
I'm going to run through my list really quickly. Yep. It was a top 10 and it's in no particular order, but these are movies that I would love to see as NES video games. Beverly Hills Cop. I think it would be a cool like outrun type thing. Yep. What have you. Labyrinth. Big Trouble in Little China, which Frankie did state in the chat. Cloak and Dagger. Okay. A movie called Daryl with the same kid that played in Neverending Story.
Atreyu or Bastion?
Bastion.
Yeah! I don't see that selling well.
Police Academy. Why there never was a game based on Police Academy, even though it had 6 freaking movies.
Right.
There was a movie called House. It was a horror movie with George Wendt and Greg Katz. Awesome horror movie. I suggest you check that out. That could definitely be a great NES game. Maximum Overdrive. The Lost Boys. Why this was never a video game. And last but not least, Legend with Tom Cruise and Tim Curry. That could be a great NES game.
Fantastic list. Oh, there was the Famicom game for Labyrinth. Interesting. I did not know that.
Oh, I did not know.
Does it include the bulge?
Puzzle Better's got it. Data analyzing robot youth life form. Daryl. It was an amazing movie. I love that movie. That's a movie that I cry whenever I watch it. So
I think we need to look up a ROM for the Labyrinth game.
I agree.
Yeah, I'd play it.
We need to see the pixelated bulge for science.
You remind me of the babe.
What?
All right. Thank you all for listening to episode 138 or 69 times 2 of Gamers Week podcast. And a big thank you to the Retro Game Club podcast, Love Retro BTW, A Gamer Looks at 40 podcast, and Pixel Pawn Production Company for sponsoring this episode. Don't forget to check out their links in the show notes. If you want to connect with Gamers Week, follow us on Twitter at Gamers Week PC. Watch us right here on Twitch at twitch.tv/Gamers Week podcast, where we will record live every Wednesday at 8:30 Central Time. Email us at gamersweekpodcast@gmail.com. Visit our merch store at gamers-week-podcast.creator-spring.com, or if you want to do it the easy way, follow the link in the show notes. And last but not least, join us on Patreon at patreon.com/gamersweek. Finally, since you made it all the way to the end of this episode, please leave us a rating and a review to let us know how we did. We really do value your feedback. And while you're there, consider subscribing on iTunes, Spotify, or your podcast platform of choice. And I think everyone in the chat tonight would like to join me in encouraging Ryan to apply sunscreen all over his entire face. You don't want to get any sunburns there and that skin that's not used to seeing the light of day.
Hasn't seen the light of day for 11 years.
Wow.
It's in shock right now. That's the thing.
Yeah. Come on, you got to take a picture and let the Twitter world see it.
You really
the mistakes
do.
were
You
made.
really do.
Nope.
Real man owns up to his mistakes.
The worst part is I've got like a zit on the end of my nose too. So like,
I mean, don't make us clip this and then put it online in order for the people to see.
you know what? I don't mind if you are required to put forth additional effort to embarrass me. That I'm fine with that. I'm okay that I have taken up more of your day than I really need to. So perfectly fine with that.
I think it would be hashtag worth it.
Hashtag worth it.
Good night, everybody. Thank you so much.
Good night, guys.
Good night. Waiting on you.
For what?
To start the episode?
You're the one reading.
We're not live.
We are so live right now.
Really? Because I've been watching the stream. And hang on then, because I don't... It just still says the stream starting screen. And I'm looking at it. No?
No, we are. I'm seeing it right there.
Okay, well, I didn't see in the chat a bunch of people going, what the hell is wrong with your... face, Ryan. Like nobody's commenting at all.
Which is great. Let's just move past it. We don't have to address it whatsoever.
On for at least 3 minutes. Cool. Well, at least we didn't do anything embarrassing then.
Cool.
I got all my nose picking done beforehand.
Were we live and you were digging? You're just like,
Mm-hmm. I just couldn't find it, so I had to keep going, and you know how it is.
Knuckle deep.
Yep.
Welcome to Gamers Week Uncut.
Welcome to Gamers Week Uncut.
Welcome to Gamers Week Uncut, patrons with benefits. This is the unscripted, patron-only bonus cast with less editing and more dirty jokes. We don't know where the conversation will go, but we're sure it will be weird.
This fish just went right on my nipple, and I'm just like,
I Google Street Fighter 6. The first search result that comes up is people think they can see Ryu's dick in the Street Fighter 6 reveal.
Listen up here, kids. You're not going to want to get one of those VD-STDs things, right? Make it fall off. When you go, grab a pro. You'll be doing it for America.
That was perfect.
If you want to hear weekly episodes of our patron-only bonus cast, join us at patreon.com/gamersweek.